The story begins with young Noah, the youngest of 5 sisters, each renowned for their exceptional skill in the art of fencing. Despite his hard training, Noah was constantly inferior to his sisters, who were true masters of the sword. But on this day, an unexpected turn occurred. When he almost lost in another duel, he suddenly showed extraordinary dexterity and technique. For a brief moment, he seized the initiative, surprising everyone. But this success was fleeting. The sister named Sirius quickly recovered and prepared to deliver the blow that would end the fight. She jumped high, pointing the blade at the confused Noah, who only covered his head with his hands and began to beg for mercy. Their fight was watched by Lisa, the sister with whom he often trained. She appreciated his unexpected progress. Lisa helped her brother up and asked him how exactly he was practicing. Noah admitted that he had been practicing the skill for 3 years. However, Lisa was not satisfied and insisted that from now on she would be his personal mentor. She wanted to understand why he was still so weak after so much time. When Noah began to sadly talk about his lack of talent and difficulties, Lisa interrupted him without an ounce of sympathy. She was irritated by his lack of confidence and sharply accused him of empty words and lack of action. Noah burst into tears, not knowing what to do. Lisa continued to reproach him, accusing him of laziness and lack of desire to study even under strict guidance. She scornfully stated that he was so weak that even the greatest mentor could not make him a worthy swordsman. After she left, another sister, Sil, approached him, noticing that Lisa had been overly harsh. Sil asked him if he was going to give up fencing and suggested changing direction and trying magic. Noah wearily replied that he had told Lisa he had no natural talent for fighting. Sil nodded, but added that he had no aptitude for magic either. She asked what his strong point was then. Noah hesitated, which caused Sil some disappointment. She reminded him that their father had taken him into the house out of necessity, not free will. Although she had tender feelings for him, Sil felt that he did not fit into their family and advised him to remember this. Realizing that he had no other way, Noah decided to leave. Surprised, Sil did not believe his words and asked again. Noah, without hesitation, said he would pack his things and leave the house. Then Sil realized he was serious and tried to talk him out of it. He explained that he said this on purpose, hoping for Lisa's reaction. Perhaps she would try to stop him. Sil was worried. She was sure that Lisa would definitely intervene, and she doubted that Noah could survive on his own. Finding a job was not easy, but Noah confidently declared that he would become an adventurer. His determination amazed Simil. He opened the door and began to explain his plan. Guilds are always looking for new members. Sil didn't believe his words. She reminded him that the profession of a seeker is fraught with dangers. You need to fight monsters and take on risky missions. Noah, however, remained calm. He assured his sister that he would choose tasks according to his strengths and avoid excessive risks. She was still tormented by doubts and asked why he needed this. Noah's answer was simple. He believed that the path of the seeker was worthy. Unlike the careers of a knight or a soldier, which seemed unattainable, the profession of a traveler allowed one to help others. Sil did not like this idea, but she could not help but respect his conviction. Noah had no intention of changing his mind. He was ready to leave. Cyril asked him to wait at least until the end of the month and promised to talk to his sisters, but he refused. He admitted that if his older sister Ilya had been there, the separation would have been even harder. He rejected the idea of staying. He had followed them all his life, relying on his family. Cyril doubted that he had anyone to help him. Then, Noah, without hesitation, told them everything. He made the decision to leave because he knew that if he stayed, he would forever feel pathetic and worthless. Noah approached the massive gates of the mansion, ready to leave the house. Cyril stopped him again, concern visible in her eyes. She wished him strength and wisdom, asking if he was sure of his choice. Noah nodded without hesitation. His sister warned him of possible threats beyond their domain, but admitted that she could no longer hold him back. Now everything depended on him. Noah thanked Sil for her concern and admitted that it was nice to meet her before heading away. However, when he took a step forward, she couldn't stand it. Holding back tears, Sil tried to persuade him to stay, promising to change her attitude and be kinder. But even despite her sincere words, Noah did not stop. He left without looking back. A week later, his path led him to the border town of Raja, a place where the lands of people ended and the lands of demons began. Finding himself amid the hubbub, noise, and dust of a busy city, Noah felt an inner anxiety that would not leave him. It had only been a week since he had run away from home, but it felt like much longer. He was afraid that his sisters would track him down and take him back. Suddenly, a stranger approached him and called him by a false name. Mr. Zig. That's what it sounded like. The man introduced himself as Ordo, a merchant, and said that the cart Noah was supposed to use was getting ready to leave. To avoid detection, Noah gave a false name, Sieg. Ordo noted that despite all the difficulties, they had arrived safely. He then asked if Noah really intended to become an adventurer in the Raj. He answered in the affirmative, and Ordo handed him a sealed envelope. Inside the envelope was a letter of recommendation to the local guild. Noah hesitated to accept it. Ordo expressed gratitude for the help along the way, and admitted that without Noah, he would not have been able to return home alive. Noah thought for a moment, remembering the events that had happened a few days earlier when they had received a warning to stay away from dangerous territory. But even with this knowledge, they encountered hostile creatures. One of the men, realizing the threat, ordered them to retreat. Ordo was afraid for the goods, but his companion explained that the situation was critical and asked him directly, did he want to die? At that moment, Noah noticed how the monster was preparing to attack from above. Reacting instantly, he dodged the attack, demonstrating incredible agility and precision of movement. Suddenly, a mighty goblin general appeared and attacked them with fury. Noah, without losing his composure, pushed one of his companions aside and dodged the powerful blow. He noticed that the goblin's attacks were much slower than his sister Lisa's, and so he had no trouble dodging the attack. As the goblin began to prepare for the final attack, Noah, full of determination, declared to himself that it was time to end this fight. He struck with such power and precision that the goblin general was nearly knocked off his feet. Before his opponent could recover, Noah ended the battle with one clean move, killing him outright. The other goblins froze in horror, watching Noah's swift and confident actions. He immediately took the initiative, ordering his companions to deal with the enemies behind him, while he himself rushed forward to deal with the rest. The man next to him could not believe that the young man had single-handedly crushed the goblin general with one powerful blow. Ordo, still stunned, noted that Noah's fighting style was remarkably similar to that of the famed hero Zelik. Later, as they rode together in a carriage, Noah modestly rejected such comparisons, insisting that he was far from heroic. Ordo smirked and said that Noah was being overly modest. Noah responded by emphasizing that Shin and his comrades were the real heroes. However, Ordo noted that even Shin's squad would have had a hard time dealing with those goblins. Noah asked in surprise if those monsters were really that strong. But before Ordo could answer, the third man announced that they had arrived in Raja. As they parted, Ordo shook Noah's hand firmly and told him that his shop was in the southern part of the city. He invited Noah to stop by any time. Noah thanked him for his support and promised to visit him once he got settled. Ordo assured him that he would always be happy to help. Left alone, Noah headed towards the Adventurers Guild building. This was his first serious step in a new direction. However, he couldn't help but think that if the tasks were too difficult, he might have to give up. At the entrance, a stranger stopped him and asked if he was a newcomer. Noah reacted sharply, scared, and immediately asked who it was. The man apologetically said that he did not mean to scare him, he just noticed how nervous he looked. He assured that the guild is open to all newcomers and is ready to support them at the start. The man admitted that he cannot promise success, but noted that much depends on Noah himself. He thanked him and entered the guild building. Inside, he was met by a girl named Romelia, the branch manager. She kindly asked if he wanted to register. Noah confirmed his intention, received the form, carefully filled it out, and returned it. Romelia checked his details and informed him that he was now officially listed as an F-rank adventurer. Noah, a little embarrassed, asked if the guild accepted materials for sale. Romelia agreed and asked to see what he had. He took out his small bag, explaining that everything he needed was inside. Despite its size, the bag turned out to be magical. Romelia eagerly led him to the warehouse, where they could lay everything out. In the storage room, Noah began to pull out trophies from the magic bag. He wondered if such artifacts were common. Romelia confirmed that they were extremely rare. After hearing that Noah had made it himself using a magic seal, she noted that he probably had magical abilities. When Noah laid out all the contents, Romelia was shocked by the number of items.
I would be very happy if you subscribed to the channel, liked and wrote a comment, rating this manga on a scale from 1 to 10. Your opinion is very important to me. This will help me better understand what my audience is interested in, because you are really important to me.
She asked him who he really was. Noah was a little confused and said that he was just a beginner, studying both sword and magic. Romelia, looking at the items, noticed that one of the goblins he defeated was clearly of higher rank. She specified that among those defeated were 4 D-rank goblins and 1 C-rank general, and added that to defeat them, one must be at least level B in elite category inaccessible to beginners. Then she asked if he was a hidden knight. Noah refused. Romelia also pointed out that some parts of the trophies were missing, and half-jokingly wondered if he had stolen something. Then Noah remembered the letter from Ordo and decided to show it. He handed her the letter. After reading it, Romelia noticed Ordo's personal seal and realized that everything described in the document was true. In the letter, Ordo directly confirmed that Noah personally defeated all the monsters. Convinced of this, she apologized for her suspicions and admitted her mistake. However, she noted that she did not have the authority to decide the issue of rank promotion on her own. At that moment, a man standing nearby suggested that they organize a special test for Noah to assess his abilities. Romelia agreed, and the man added that if Noah really was as strong as Ordo claimed, then he would easily pass the test. Noah was surprised to learn that the man was the head of the local guild. He introduced himself as Alberto, the manager of the Raji branch. Noah felt a mixture of respect and slight confusion. Romelia, seeing Alberto, was surprised by his appearance. He explained that the line at the counter was too long, and he decided to help. She thanked him and hurried away. After this, Alberto turned to Noah and offered to tell him the details of the test that awaited him ahead. He asked Noah what decision he had made. He asked if it was a special exam. Alberto confirmed, adding that passing the exam was not mandatory, but if successful, it would allow him to advance in rank. He advised Noah to think about it and decide on his next course of action. The next morning, Noah walked into the training arena where the trials were to take place. The place had a rich history. Knights, mercenaries, and even merchants had been selected here. He looked around the area with a little excitement and anticipation. Romelia came over and informed him that the examiner would be arriving soon. She explained that the test would consist of combat training, and if Noah performed well, he would be promoted to D rank. Romelia explained that the fight could not begin until the examiner arrived. She gently took Noah's hand and assured him that, despite the difficulty of the upcoming duel, she believed in his abilities. Noah thanked her and nodded affirmatively, confirming his desire to take the test. He also asked if there were any pitfalls to this exam. Romelia confidently stated that there were no risks. Even if he felt unprepared for more difficult tasks, he could always choose missions with a low rating. These words encouraged Noah. A hope awoke in his heart that the exam would be the start of a new life. He felt that achieving this goal would restore his lost confidence. Leaving home, despite his fears, only strengthened him. Everything seemed almost like a dream. At that moment, a girl ran onto the platform, apologizing for being late. Romelia scolded Kurta for her slowness. She justified herself by saying that she hadn't been able to get ready in the morning. Noah's eyes widened in surprise. He realized that Kurta would be his examiner. Romelia introduced them to each other, and Noah noted that she was about his age. Sensing his confusion, Kurta asked him ironically if he doubted her qualifications. Noah quickly denied this. Romelia intervened and explained that despite her youth, Kurta was an A-rank seeker and possessed remarkable talent. These words shocked Noah, undermining his self-confidence. Kurta looked at Noah carefully and said that although he seemed like a promising newcomer, he did not have the inner drive of a seasoned fighter. She warned him that he could get hurt if he was not careful, and asked if he had changed his mind about participating. Noah firmly stated that he was ready. Romelia announced that the duel was about to begin and explained the terms. The fight would end if someone surrendered or the examiner deemed the test over. As the fight began, Noah was overcome with excitement. He remembered how he had trained for years under constant criticism, and how those words had made him doubt his own abilities. Kurta looked at him and thought that he looked even weaker than expected. However, she was not going to back down. From the start, Kurta realized that the fight could end in injuries and decided not to underestimate her opponent. She aimed a punch at the head, but Noah quickly dodged. Startled by his reaction, she pressed harder. She tried to kick him, but missed again. Noah dodged. Realizing he was unable to effectively respond to her flurry of strikes, Noah focused on defense and keeping his distance. Kurta began to suspect that he didn't fully understand the level of danger of the exam, but she decided to keep up the pace to really test him. She attacked again, and Noah deftly avoided the blow. Kurta noted his agility, but warned that defense alone would not win the fight. Seeing his wooden sword and lack of magical support, she decided to use her strength and speed to finish the fight. Seeing Noah sheath his sword, she assumed he was using Leto's technique, which she did not think was very effective. She rushed into another attack, but unexpectedly received a precise blow that knocked her off her feet. As she stood up, she asked if he had used the air punch, a high-level technique. Her surprise was genuine, and she immediately asked where he had learned it. Noah remembered Lisa calling it the foundation of mastery. He almost let it slip about his sister, but quickly lied, saying he learned the technique at the dojo. Kurta, who knew that the local schools did not teach such techniques, realized that he was hiding something. Now seeing his true level, Kurta decided to continue with full concentration. At this point, Romelia intervened, reminding him that the purpose of the duel was to evaluate Noah's abilities, not to have a full-fledged fight. Kurta nodded, agreeing that she would try a few more attacks. Noah noticed the magical weapon in her hands and realized that one bad move would destroy his wooden sword. Her blade moved with incredible speed, although it was inferior to Lisa's style. He remembered Lisa's instructions. Every blow should be lethal, and instincts should be the main defense. But before he could concentrate, Kurta delivered a powerful blow, throwing him back. Coming to his senses, Noah realized how fast her attacks were, almost impossible to predict. Kurta scolded him sternly for his inattention and picked up the pace, moving into an even more aggressive phase of the fight. Noah focused on his breathing, gradually gaining inner calms, and this allowed him to track his opponent's movements more clearly. He realized that Kurta was not as dangerous as she seemed at first. Skillfully dodging and noticing a gap in her defense, he struck back. Kurta fell and admitted defeat. Romelia, amazed that a newbie could defeat an A-rank adventurer, officially acknowledged Noah's victory. She immediately went to Kurta to check on her condition. Kurta assured her with a grin that she was fine. She had seen worse. However, Romelia suddenly noticed that Kurta was not wearing a bib or outerwear. Embarrassed, Noah quickly turned away while Romelia helped Kurta get herself ready. Kurta then asked him with a smile if he had noticed anything unusual. Noah replied that he hadn't noticed anything special. Romelia said she would go get the guildmaster and hurried away. Kurta noted with slight concern that Romelia was in a hurry as usual and might get into trouble. She then playfully touched Noah's cheek and told him not to take things so seriously. Noah gently pulled away and asked what was wrong with her. Kurta giggled, telling him to be less withdrawn and wondering if he scared her. He admitted that he was indeed afraid of what she was capable of. She then placed her hands on his shoulders and innocently told him that she wanted to throw a celebratory get-together in his honor. Noah, confused, asked what she meant. Meanwhile, in Noah's home mansion, his sisters were gathered around a long table, with one seat empty. Ilya, upset by her brother's absence, expressed her displeasure at his sudden departure. She turned to Sistel and demanded to know why she had not used magic to stop him. Scylla calmly replied that using magic in such a situation could have unpredictable consequences and even put Noah in danger. Ilya insisted that it was their duty to protect him at all costs. Fam intervened, suggesting that they stop arguing and think about what to do next. He acknowledged that Noah's decision to leave was emotional, but urged everyone to act constructively. The ecclesia refused to get drawn into the argument, saying Noah ran away because he felt constant pressure from his parents. Elijah accused ecclesia of submitting to the church's instructions, to which she responded that there was some truth in that. The conversation turned to the role of parents, and the sisters agreed that although they were not particularly close to Noah, they still wanted him to become a worthy man, the kind of person they themselves dreamed of becoming. Ilya nodded and reminded him that ecclesia often criticized Noah's abilities. She added that she herself passed on to him the knowledge of the structure of the world and taught Siddle magic. Everyone tried their best, but it was the lessons with Ilya that he liked the most, while training with Lisa was a real test for him. Upon hearing this, Lisa struggled to hide her shock and demanded an explanation. Ilya accused her of mistreating her brother under the guise of training. Lisa countered by explaining that her strictness was a way of preparing Noah for real dangers, not an expression of cruelty. Elijah chuckled and did not accept her excuses. Then Ecclesia entered the argument, questioning Lisa's intelligence, boasting about her memory for the multiplication table. Lisa suggested that they test her. When Ecclesia asked how much 9 times 3 was, Lisa could not answer. Elijah intervened and asked for a pause in the conversation. She reminded them that they needed to find Noah as soon as possible. He could be in danger. Lisa confidently said that Noah could handle it if he had his sword. Scylla added that she had taught him some basic magic, and that should keep him going. The room fell silent as each of them wondered where their brother might be. Suddenly, the sisters had the idea that perhaps Noah was already enjoying a new life full of comfort and freedom. They imagined him surrounded by wealth, recognition, and female attention, and suddenly began to doubt whether he really wanted to come back. This thought left them confused and worried. Elijah, however, firmly said that only she had the right to be near him. They suggested that Noah might have a girlfriend who was taking up all his attention. The ecclesia refused to believe it. Lisa, recalling her actions, seriously wondered how he had dared to escape. Cyril admitted that the situation was getting out of control, and Lisa, without saying a word, left the room. Elias suggested that they find her first, and then return to the general discussion. The sisters agreed. First find Lisa, and then gather again. Meanwhile, Noah was in one of the guild's storage rooms, trying to be alone with his thoughts. Romelia looked inside and asked in surprise what he was doing in this room. Noah, feeling a strange chill, did not give a clear answer and waved the question away. Romelia noticed the monster's body that Noah brought back and informed him approvingly that it was valued at 180 gold. Noah was a little confused and asked to clarify what exactly Romelia meant. She explained that she was talking about his adventurer rank. Noah assured her that D rank would be fine for him to start with, and that he intended to rise in rank quickly. The conversation moved on to another topic. Romelia offered him to join Kurta's group, but Noah declined, explaining that although he had thought about it, he was uncomfortable working with her. Her presence reminded him too much of his sisters, causing internal tension. Seeing an opportunity for teasing, Romelia called out to him with a sly smile. When Noah asked what was the matter, she remarked that Kurta was not only one of the Raja's best adventurers, but also quite attractive in appearance. Noah blushed deeply, embarrassed by her remark. Romelia continued, hinting that working with Kurta might lead to closer interactions, which supposedly often happened in such situations. Noah quickly dismissed the idea, insisting that he was merely annoyed by it. At that moment, Kurta herself appeared and asked what the conversation was about. When Noah learned that she was the one being talked about behind his back, he blurted out that he didn't want to work with her because she had bullied him before the fight. Kurta apologized in surprise for her behavior and offered to team up again. Noah declined the offer and asked why they were there at all. Kurta replied that they had come to gather information. She mentioned that she had heard rumors of the undead appearing. Romelia confirmed this and promised to give details later. Kurta asked if it was related to the current search, and Romelia admitted that it was. Noah asked what exactly Kurta was looking for, and Romelia, after a moment's hesitation, answered that it was about finding a strong partner. Realizing she had said too much, she apologized to Noah and asked him to forget what he had said. Noah nodded, promising silence. Romelia thought about how openly she was speaking to him, not like a normal adventurer. Although she was usually confident, she felt more vulnerable around Noah. She knew in her heart that it was time to make the situation clear to Kurta. Noah clearly had no interest in joining her party. Romelia knew that Kurta was respected in the guild, but for some reason the newcomer kept turning her down. She wondered how the rest of the guild might take it, and Noah himself began to suspect that the situation might make others jealous. Romelia agreed with his concerns and suggested keeping a low profile for a while. Then, Noah expressed a desire to take on a mission from the city. Romelia asked if he was sure, since such missions often boil down to mundane work. Noah explained that he had enough money and wanted to better understand the locals. He believed that such tasks would help to strengthen his reputation. Romelia confirmed that there were many requests and offered one of them, cleaning the churchyard for 8,000 gold. Noah agreed, considering it a good start. Meanwhile, in the shadowy depths of the city's sewers, something disturbing was happening. A mysterious figure, shrouded in darkness, was performing a sinister ritual over a dead body. There was irritation in her voice. The experiment had once again failed to live up to expectations. However, despite the failure, the figure acknowledged that the result was not a complete failure. As it stepped away, the body began to rise on its own, animated by dark magic. Remaining in the shadows, the figure quietly noted how much effort it had taken to sow hatred throughout the city. She was certain that the next stage was near. Meanwhile, Noah, using the name Seek, reported on the completion of the task of cleaning the church cemetery. He used magic to cleanse every inch of the ground, leaving the area in perfect condition. As soon as he was finished, a woman from the temple named Rhea approached him with a new request, to investigate the underground springs from which the poisonous miasma emanated. Using a consecration spell, Noah set out with 3 companions. Rhea was impressed by his light magic, noting that such spells were rarely seen outside of church circles. One of the assistants, Loga, hastened to assure the others that the miasma did not pose a serious danger. But the third companion, a girl named Nino, was skeptical. She even threatened Noah with a sword if he was useless. Noah, surprised by her aggression, assured her that he had put a lot of mana into the spell, and it should hold back the miasma for some time. Despite his confidence, Nino continued to doubt him as a low-ranking mage. Rhea defended Noah, emphasizing his competence. She reminded him that he had cleared the entire cemetery in one day, and even Nino was amazed by the scale of the work. Noah took the opportunity to reveal that he had cast Blanche's light spell, a special magic designed to banish the undead, on every grave in the cemetery. Nino was momentarily stunned by these words. Rhea added that even in the Church of the Holy Cross, few people were able to use such magic. She suggested that Noah might be a real expert. Noah then remembered that it was his older sister, Pham, who taught him these spells, thus reminding himself of his connection to the magical heritage. Nino didn't make an impression. She immediately declared that she didn't like Noah, despite the fact that they had just met. Loga, trying to defuse the situation, jokingly suggested that her hostility could be caused by jealousy. He admitted that he himself admired Kurta and asked to be accepted into the team more than once, but was refused each time. In Loga's opinion, Nino was irritated by Kurta's sudden attention to Nokaya. Nino, slightly irritated, told everyone to calm down and promised to do her job perfectly. However, Loga teased her by saying that she was acting like a capricious child, which only added fuel to the fire. In response, Nino reminded Loga how a few months ago, Loga was humiliated by the administrator's refusal and could not recover for a long time. Embarrassed, Loga asked to leave the past alone. Rhea, noticing the tense atmosphere, suggested that they focus on the investigation. Noah stopped in front of the massive gate. Rhea broke the silence, explaining that a dangerous criminal group had once had a base here. Their activities had been interfering with patrols, and by the time the authorities had caught on, the miasma poison had already spread. After assessing the concentration of the toxic fumes, Noah asked if she thought a cluster of monsters might be the cause. Rhea nodded, noting that the miasma level was indeed higher than normal. At the same moment, Noah noticed something strange in their structure and warned everyone to be on guard. Nino, holding back a yawn, looked at the miasma with disdain and replied that there was no danger. Her skepticism was dispelled when a ghoul emerged from the fog and attacked them with fury. Loga immediately realized that it was an ambush, but he didn't have time to notice the creature that crept up from above. With a dull crunch, it fell on him, opening its mouth, ready to grab its prey. Luckily, Nino reacted with lightning speed and cut the monster in two. The ghoul's upper body hit Logi's shield with a dull thud, and he groaned in displeasure, asking Nino not to take down any more monsters right above him. She shrugged and told him to move forward, to which he snorted that he already knew everything. He rushed forward, sweeping away the undead with such ease as if he was scattering dust. Noah, who was fighting at the same time, could not help but admire his power. He noticed how well coordinated Nino and Lobiga were acting, and even wondered if they were brother and sister. When the fight was over, Rhea hurried to make sure no one was hurt. Loga, grateful for Noah's timely warning, assured her that everything was fine. Nino, having surveyed the area, confirmed that the ghouls had been destroyed, and then, in surprise, praised Noah for noticing the threat before her, despite the fact that she was a ninja. Noah was puzzled. He had never heard of ninjas. Apparently, they were Eastern warriors, masters of stealth and sensory skills. While he was thinking about this, Nino called out to him in irritation, asking if he could even hear what she was saying. Confused, Noah replied that sensing an enemy was a normal skill, nothing special. Nino frowned and explained that being able to detect an invisible enemy was an advanced technique and began to suspect that he was just kidding. Noah chuckled awkwardly, remembering how his sister Lisa always said that a real fighter should be able to sense danger, even when blindfolded. While the squad was catching their breath, Rhea shared her doubts. It was unusual for ghouls to set up ambushes. They usually acted roughly and directly. Loga agreed, saying that this was the first time he had been attacked from above. This made Rhea wonder if there was something more intelligent behind these attacks. As they continued forward, Noah noticed that the miasma was becoming denser. Rhea reported that they had already gone deep enough. Noah suggested that they use the sanctuary again when they reached the lower levels, and Lojanoga agreed, calling Nino over. Suddenly, a strange piece of paper flew past her foot. She looked down and saw it slide forward, then wrap itself around her, immobilizing her. Nino didn't have time to do anything. Her body was tightly wrapped in paper. Everyone froze. An oppressive premonition hung in the air. A giant zombie dragon emerged from the depths of the miasma and let out a hoarse roar. Loga immediately recognized the creature. It was a zombie dragon, a monster of catastrophic rank. He did not understand what such a terrible beast was doing in these dungeons. The dragon rushed forward, aiming straight at the immobilized Nino. Noah came to his senses and rushed forward. His sword cut the paper, freeing the girl. Nino fell down exhausted, and Logrega caught her in time. But the monster did not stop. It fired more paper strips, but Noah parried them, cutting them in mid-air. One of the strips still grazed his cheek, leaving a bloody scratch. Brushing away the blood, Noah charged towards the dragon with cold determination. When it released its ribbons again, Noah used them to push himself off and fly upward. He raised his sword, intending to strike the monster's back. But at the last moment he realized that the attack would not cause serious harm. The zombie dragon turned out to be much more resilient than he expected. A new wave of paper rushed towards him, but Noah deftly cut it in mid-air. He quickly realized that this enemy could not be defeated with simple blows. He would need strength much greater than what he had now. Noah realized that his sword might not be able to withstand another powerful attack. He remembered Lisa's advice to take care of his weapon, because the sword is an extension of the warrior's soul. He hesitated for a moment. At that moment, Nino, sensing how serious everything was, suggested retreating into a narrow corridor, assuming that the large zombie dragon would not be able to catch up with them there. But as soon as they looked into the passage, it became clear that it was filled with dozens of ghouls. Loga immediately realized that the whole situation could have been a trap from the very beginning. However, there was no time to think. The dragon appeared in front of them again, letting out a terrifying roar. Numb, Noah thought of his sister and mentally apologized for the possibility of destroying her sword. But then he pulled himself together, his muscles tensing, and a powerful aura erupted from his body, a glow of power that filled the space. Rhea, Nino, and even Loga froze in shock. Could this newcomer really be capable of manifesting such energy? They wondered what the source of such an unusual aura was. Meanwhile, the dragon transformed the paper projectiles, forming them into a paper drill that hissed as it spun through the air. Noah gripped the hilt of his sword tightly, closed his eyes, and focused his energy, preparing to strike back. As the drill flew toward him, he opened his eyes and responded with a furious swing. Noah's blow easily split the drill in two, then landed squarely in the monster's chest, revealing the pulsating core beneath its ribs. For a second, he felt relief. Finally, his attack had worked. But suddenly the sword gave way. The blade cracked and broke. He was left with a fragment in his hand. Shock ran through him. Noah knew Lisa would be angry for damaging the weapon. His thoughts began to spin, but another horror distracted him. The wound on the monster's body began to heal. Rhea screamed, explaining that the demon's core was inside. It was what gave the monster its ability to regenerate. The dragon turned and prepared to attack again, and Nino screamed, warning Noah to be on guard. The dragon rushed forward, but the squad hid behind Lorega's shield. He promised to hold off the onslaught while the others figured out how to destroy the monster. In the midst of the battle, Nino pulled Lorega aside and gave him a sharp slap, reminding him that they were a team and had to work together. She then handed Noah a black steel kunai, her secret weapon that could not be destroyed. Loga supported her, telling Noah that it was now his turn to protect his sister Rhea and finish off this monster. Noah readily accepted the weapon and nodded. When the monster's attack paused, Logana shouted that now was the best time. Noah flew into the air, pushed off the wall, flipped over, and landed right on the dragon's back, where he could clearly see the core. He put all his strength into his jump and, using a kunai, pierced the monster through, landing on his feet in complete silence. The zombie dragon let out a final roar, began to crack and crumble into pieces. The entire team screamed with joy, tasting victory. Rhea and Lorega rushed to Noah and hugged him. He smiled in relief, glad that everyone was alive. He then handed Nino her kunai, praising the weapon for helping him destroy the enemy. Noah blushed slightly when Nino thanked him. He admitted that he was not yet accustomed to thanks. Nino bowed politely in response, saying that it was not necessary. Noah noted how easily she handled the situation, despite her strength. Nino thought about it. Despite his strength, he seemed fragile to her. When Noah, embarrassed, called her name, she waved it off, saying that it did not matter. He was left slightly confused. Noah asked where the ghouls that had blocked their path earlier had disappeared to. Nino reported that they had suddenly disappeared. Loga expressed suspicion. Perhaps someone was controlling them. Rhea agreed, adding that only a very powerful mage could have subdued a zombie dragon. Rhea suggested going back to the original mission, investigating the miasma in the water channel. Lozaga noted that the mission was more of an A-rank mission, and suggested continuing once they had collected the necessary materials. Everyone agreed. Loga looked at the broken sword with sadness, and then promised Noah to introduce him to a good blacksmith. As they left, a snake with a dark mark on its forehead watched them in the darkness. Meanwhile, a crowd had gathered in the Windstar Kingdom. Excitement was in the air. Lisa stood before the massive golem and thought, she hadn't been summoned for so long. She had a premonition that they wanted to test her again. The king, looking at her with doubt, noted that this time the fight would be much more difficult. Lisa, as always calm and confident, replied that she was ready to fight at any time and with any enemy. Magrave, an advisor, stood nearby, persuading the monarch to abandon the idea. He explained that the golem named Argos was not an ordinary machine. Lisa was confronted by an ancient golem, an artifact found in forgotten ruins. It was armed with a real Gatling gun. Magrave was worried. Despite Lisa's unrivaled swordsmanship, Argos could outmatch her. But the king remained calm. Lisa stretched her shoulders and encouraged the monarch, assuring him that she could handle any attack. The confidence in her voice made a strong impression on him. In addition, she asked for a favor. If she were to win, she would like some time alone. The king asked if she would just like to rest. Lisa explained she needed to find his missing brother. The king, frowning, gave his consent. He gave the order to Magrave, who, with visible reluctance, admitted that he would not take responsibility for the possible consequences. The golem Argos activated and began the attack. As the mechanism came to life, Lisa remembered why Noah had disappeared. Their vow to protect each other after their parents' deaths came to mind. The machine gun barrels began to spin. Lisa drew her sword, and a hail of bullets rained down on her. She deflected each one without wasting a moment, then lunged forward, clutching her blade. Using the blade-in-flight technique and the fourth flash skill, Lisa launched a lightning strike and accurately pierced Argos's defense. The golem fell apart with a crash. Magrave was dumbfounded, but the king did not hide his delight. Lisa, passing by the monarch, reminded him of his promise. She said that she was taking a vacation, as agreed, to find his brother. Meanwhile, in the border town of Loja, the residents breathed a sigh of relief. The threat of the zombie dragon was behind them. Rhea suggested taking a short break. Loga was not only pleased with the completion of the task, but also with the bonus he received for the materials he had obtained. Noah's reputation as a warrior was cemented. As they prepared to leave, Noah approached Lomega and confessed that he felt he had been underpaid. Loga assured him that he had earned every coin. Nino added that Noah had single-handedly slain a zombie dragon. Nino noted that as a B-rank adventurer, he was not in need. Noah assumed that missions of that rank were well paid. Loga whispered to him not to be late tomorrow, promising to show him a special place. When Noah asked if they were going to the forge, Loga chuckled and told him to keep quiet. He would find out everything in the morning. Nino, overhearing the conversation, became suspicious and decided that Loga had strange intentions. The next day, Logaroga was waiting for Noah in the park. Noah called out to him when he saw him, but noticed Nino nearby. She told them to go ahead. Loga frowned and asked why she was there. Nino looked at him suspiciously and said that he wanted to take Noah to Water Street. Noah asked what kind of place it was, and Nino explained, a street where old ladies with dubious reputations lived. Noah was shocked. Loga defended himself, arguing that adventurers were supposed to have fun and celebrate successful missions. Nino couldn't argue with that logic, and Noah admitted that his sisters wouldn't approve of such behavior. He had 5 formidable older sisters at home. Loga anxiously asked if they were really that scary. Noah nodded. Then he suggested forgetting about Water Street and heading to the blacksmith. As they walked through the busy streets, Noah was surprised by the number of people. Loga explained that there were over 100 workshops in the area, as Lamea was the center of the continent, where craftsmen and seekers flocked. Nino added that the nearby forest supplied the city with valuable materials. Loga mentioned that there was a dwarven country nearby, which interested Noah, as he had never met a dwarf. Loga laughed and said that the blacksmith they were going to was a dwarf. When Noah reached the workshop, he was amazed by its size. But Lobaga pointed to a modest building next door and assured him that the best blacksmith worked there. Nino asked why he kept such a master a secret. Loduga replied that everything would become clear when they met. Opening the door, they felt the heat and heard the rhythmic blows of a hammer. Behind the anvil stood the dwarf Barg, who cast a suspicious glance at them. Loga greeted them and noted that the forge was stuffy. Barg returned the greeting and asked who was with him. Loga introduced Noah and Nino. Barg immediately noted Noah's height, which confused him. Loga explained that Noah had done an outstanding deed, but Barg was dubious, until he heard that he had defeated a zombie dragon. Barg sniffed Noah, then said he believed the story. The boy had an impressive physique. Noah was taken aback, especially when the dwarf jokingly suggested he strip. Loga chuckled, calling Noah Mr. Muscletown, which only made him more embarrassed. His protests only amused Loga even more. Loga complimented Noah's physical fitness and asked how he trained. Noah replied that he mostly did regular sword training. His older sister Fam occasionally watched his training to make sure he wasn't slacking off. Every time Noah got bruised and abraded, Fem used spells to speed up recovery. Perhaps that was why his body was gaining strength so quickly. Nino, hearing this, laughed and noted that it seemed that this was why his sword was much cooler than her humble kunai. When Noah asked her in confusion why she was laughing, Nino replied that she just had a runny nose. Although it didn't look like a sneeze at all, she continued to tease him, which only made him more and more embarrassed. Loga suggested going to the guild. As they walked, Noah considered whether to involve them in the matter related to the order from BG. It spoke of the need to polish the blade and collect the armor of the Wrath. The sword itself was described as a masterpiece. Noah understood that if he succeeded, Bard would consider him worthy of wearing this sword. He warned that the task was personal, and no one was obliged to help. But Loga just laughed and said that adventurers exist for that very reason, to support each other without unnecessary words. Nino added that since the task was arranged through the guild, Birak would have no choice. He would have to be grateful. Later, at the local branch, Lamelia confirmed that all the paperwork had been completed, and their team was officially registered. Noah, noticing how excited Lamelia was, asked if anything good had happened. She was surprised that he had guessed, and admitted that she had finally closed his old request and was now simply dreaming of getting some sleep after 3 sleepless nights. Noah thanked her for her diligence, and carefully asked if this was about the zombie dragon. Lamelia nodded, adding that the best adventurers were still exploring the underground waterways. Suddenly, Kulta entered the guild, surprising both Noah and Lamelia. She immediately joined the conversation, and Nino happily ran up to her. Kulta turned around and, seeing Nino, hugged her with a smile. Nino playfully nudged Noah with her elbow. Kulta confirmed that she was indeed heading out to investigate. Nino, becoming a little more serious, warned her to be careful. Noah remembered that Nino had always admired Kulta. Kulta thanked her friend and assured her that everything would be fine. Nino agreed, confident that Kulta was nearly invincible. At this time, Lulega came up, grabbed Nino by the shoulders, and declared that she had errors in her form, leading her away. Kulta smiled at Noah and noted with slight sadness that fate was leading her to the undead again. Noah was curious and asked what she meant by lost, and if it had anything to do with her past. Kulta was silent for a moment, then sadly admitted that her story was like many. She had lost everything. Her home village was destroyed by demons, and since then she has become an adventurer driven by a thirst for revenge. Noah asked if she was that girl. Kulta seriously asked him not to pity her, because she does not consider herself worthy of sympathy. She admitted that she initially wanted to recruit him to use in her revenge, but later realized that she did not need him, and perhaps she did the right thing by letting him go. As she was about to leave, she said goodbye, but Noah called out to her and handed her an amulet. A demon core filled with light magic. This amulet was supposed to protect her from the miasma. Before she could take it, Nino suddenly intervened. She grabbed the amulet, whispered a spell over it, and handed it back to Kulta, telling him to be careful. When Lorega tried to find out what exactly she had cast, Nino told him to shut up. Kulta just smiled and assured him that she wasn't afraid, especially if the amulet was from Nino. Before leaving, She turned back to Noah and invited him to dinner after completing her mission. Noah replied that he would look forward to it. She left with a slight smile. He hoped that her journey would be smooth, and Nino assured her that Kulta would be fine. Loga, watching them, patted Noah and Nino on the back and reminded them that there was no point in worrying. They had their own tasks. Meanwhile, in the Great Pantheral Swamp, a turtle monster named Ractatus was crunching on an old skeleton. Noah hid behind a boulder and couldn't believe his eyes. Loga explained that stone turtles are every swordsman's nightmare. These creatures are so massive that physical damage against them is almost ineffective, and magic has little effect on them. Curious, Noah asked if the beast had a weak spot. Loga told him that the most vulnerable area was at the base of the neck. Noah gripped the hilt of his sword, preparing for his first serious test. He was determined to test his new blade. He remembered Barg's story about meteoric iron, a giant boulder, more than 5 meters wide, that was pressed and forged into an unrivaled blade, capable of withstanding even a dragon's blow. Barg boasted that the sword was not only incredibly sharp, but also virtually indestructible. Noah believed that such qualities should be enough to defeat the turtle. Despite the high price and considerable weight of the blade, he knew that every gold coin invested in it was well spent. Nino and Loga watched in bewilderment as Noah took his time attacking the stone turtle's vulnerable neck. Loga quietly noted that it was too early to relax. Such creatures rarely appeared alone. Most often they attacked in packs. When Nino asked where so many creatures came from, she answered that wild monsters have an innate sense of strength, and Noah himself is essentially to blame for drawing them to himself. As they prepared for the fight, Loega chuckled and said that even the monsters respected Noah's power, since they had all come in a group. He suggested that he and Nino create a distraction, while Noah found the right moment to strike. Nino warned that the swamps were treacherous, full of quagmires and bottomless pools, and in addition, there were magsites, creatures much more dangerous than those they had encountered before. As if on cue, the monsters' heads turned in unison, and new predators appeared on the clearing. Noah lunged forward and delivered a powerful blow to the forehead of the nearest magsite. However, the attack did not bring any results. The creature looked at him almost indifferently. In response, the monster released a cloud of superheated steam, and Loa rushed forward to cover Noah. He noted that ranged attacks were useless here. Loa admitted that he had been mistaken in hoping for the softness of the shell. As they approached, Noah wanted to switch to close combat, but Loa stopped him, pointing to the shaky and treacherous ground under his feet. Loa explained that magsites possessed the same raw power as Rotatos, but also emitted a dangerous heat that could burn anyone who came close. Noah was about to ask a question, but at that moment, Rotatos suddenly jumped on him. The situation was saved by a well-aimed shuriken, which pierced the creature's eye, followed by a finishing blow. Once in relative safety, Nino explained that the magsites, unlike the Rotatos, lacked magical protection and were quite slow, making them vulnerable to spells. However, the whole problem was that there was no real mage among them. She turned to Loa and asked what they should do next. Meanwhile, Noah thought about the sword forged by Barg and its main feature, the ability to absorb mana. He remembered the blacksmith's instructions. The blade can not only cut through spells that cannot be dodged, but also absorb their magical power, which must then be released safely. He once asked Barg if it was possible to fill a sword with mana in advance for use in magic. Barg confirmed the possibility, but warned that the path of a swordsman is dangerous. People who strive to combine the art of fencing with magic often become mediocre in both disciplines and do not achieve true heights. Inspired by the memories, Noah came up with a risky plan. Try to charge his aerial technique with mana. He had never done this before and knew that the outcome was unpredictable. However, if the experiment succeeds, it could change the course of the battle. Noah asked his friends to distract the magmats while he focused on the magical content of the attack. Loga grinned and volunteered to take care of the 2 magmats, and Nino confidently voiced her distraction tactics. Before she began, she glanced at Noah and sternly warned him. If he failed, she would run him through with her sword. At the signal, they entered the battle. Noah gathered all his inner mana, directing the flow into the blade. At the moment of release, the blade flared with an icy flash. The magmata took notice of the attack, and Nino cleverly took advantage of the situation, throwing a dagger and mockingly calling out to the creatures. The dagger hit the magmat right in the eye and then returned to Nino's hand. The creatures rushed towards her, but one of them fell into the quagmire. Nino deftly dodged the attack, turned around and gave Noah a sign. Now it was his turn. Watching the magmat slip away, Noah gathered his strength and summoned an ice blade. He delivered a powerful blow, putting all his accumulated mana into it. The result exceeded expectations. The monster began to crack and then crumble into ice chips. The victory was sudden and unconditional. After the battle was over, the three of them took a deep breath, relieved to realize that they had dealt with the enemy. Their mood became noticeably lighter. Nino, amazed by the power of Noah's magical strike, admitted that it was truly impressive. Confused, Noah asked if she was joking. Nino backed down, insisting that she hadn't said anything of the sort. But Loga interjected that he had long noticed Noah's talents. He thanked her and noted that they were a great team, causing both of his companions to blush. He then suggested that they celebrate their victory by walking down Water Street. Nino immediately reproached him for his eternal poverty, hinting that he loved to spend too much. Later, already in the lodge, she and Loga were walking past the guild, and Nino suggested that they take a test to increase their rank, assuring that Noah had long deserved it. Loga replied that he was not ready yet. He needed to complete another task. Lamelia explained the details and structure of the rank increase. Loga wanted to say encouragingly that Noah could handle it, but his attention was distracted by the crowd at the entrance to the guild. A woman's scream was heard, and they saw Sister Rhea, barely containing her excitement. Rhea struggles to say that something terrible has happened. Nino places a calming hand on her shoulder and asks her to take a deep breath. Rhea explains that new waves of undead have risen in the temple cemetery, and a dull, terrifying rumble can be heard from the dungeons beneath the building. Rhea has already sent a request to the guild to immediately evacuate all residents near the temple. Nino is stunned, especially considering that Kulta should have been inside the tunnel. Noah agrees to report the threat to the guild, but the ground suddenly trembles, and a powerful explosion is heard in the distance. Rhea points in the direction of the noise. It was a church. Noah's heart sinks with a bad feeling. He asks Rhea to hide in the building, and he urgently calls Loga and Nino. Realizing the seriousness of what was happening, they immediately went to the place. Having reached the cemetery, their gaze opened to a huge funnel in the ground, gaping with darkness. The undead are constantly crawling out of the hole, and a toxic miasma is spreading everywhere. Noah orders everyone to back off, preparing to use his special move. But before he can do anything, a figure flies out of the black abyss. In its arms is the limp body of Kulta, bound and unconscious. It was a mage, radiating an ominous aura. Later, in the guildmaster's office, they report to Avelt that an unknown creature has captured Kultu and escaped. They tried to stop it, but were powerless. Avelt notes that the main thing is that they are still alive. He suspects that it was a demon, a creature far more dangerous than ordinary monsters. Demons are cunning, intelligent, and possess terrifying powers. Perhaps there was a base under the church where experiments with the undead were conducted, and that is where this demon resides. Noah suggests that the zombie dragon may have been guarding the dungeon. The search party leader, an A-rank and former priest, is surprised. Why would the demon take Kulta captive if he could have simply destroyed them all? Adavelt suggests that Kulta was the demon's primary target and asks if there are any necromantic artifacts in the dungeons. The priest confirms that such items do exist. At this point, Nino slams the table in anger, demanding that the rescue begin immediately. She is outraged by their slowness. Avelt, suppressing his irritation, explains that acting rashly is stupid because they are up against an experienced necromancer. Even if a squad is sent there, casualties will be inevitable, and those killed in battle may join the enemy ranks. Adavelt emphasizes that they need a warrior who can match and surpass an S-rank hero in strength. Nino demands to call this fighter immediately, but Akavelt explains that he has already been summoned, but is currently unavailable. It turns out that he was talking about Lisa, a sword master, the best among the thousands of warriors on the continent. Hearing this name, Noah freezes. Lisa was his older sister. Without waiting for further decisions, Nino declares that she will go and save Kulta herself. Loga tries to dissuade her, reminding her that it could cost her life, and Adavelt agrees. But Nino reveals that she had previously cast a tracking spell on the amulet Noah gave Kulta. According to her, Kulta is located northeast of Loga, in the Forest of Evil Spirits. Noah and Loga tease Nino, but she confidently defends her decision, slightly embarrassed. The spell allowed her to pinpoint her friend's location. Nino admits that without Kulta, their journey will be meaningless. She says goodbye, getting ready to leave, and Noah suddenly offers to accompany her. Surprised, Nino asks why, to which he answers with a smile. Kulta promised him dinner. She is touched by this reason, and Loga, overcome with anxiety, realizes that this time, Noah may face a real mortal threat. The young warrior abruptly interrupted the conversation, holding out a dagger engraved with the family crest, and confidently stated that if he showed it to a swordswoman named Raiza, she would immediately drop everything and show up. The guildmaster, confused, tried to continue the conversation, but did not have time. The man, recognizing the coat of arms on the blade, suddenly realized the importance of what was happening. His face turned pale with anxiety, because the appearance of this woman could have unexpected consequences. He looked at the young man with concern and wondered who the mysterious Zeke was, to which the young man calmly replied that this woman was capable of settling everything, without exception. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the man stopped questioning and, breaking protocol, gave the three permission to participate in the demon hunt to save a village called Kulta. The young leader sternly warned that if the task seemed impossible, they should retreat immediately. His comrades, the warrior, and the ninja girl, confirmed their readiness for action without hesitation. Already in the forest, he regretfully admitted to himself that he had given away his own location. He handed the girl the dagger, asking her to always keep it with her, because it was a memorable gift from her older sister Raiza. They discussed how it would take Raiza several days to get here from her homeland, but they also emphasized that they needed to complete the mission before she showed up and everything was revealed, especially considering the effort it took to persuade the guildmaster. The girl looked at her tall companion, who seriously stated that if the mission failed, he would have to say goodbye to his loved ones. She was amazed by his determination and nodded silently. During the rest stop, the girl thanked Zeke for his help, promising to compensate for the loss of an important trump card, that very knife. However, he smiled, explaining that he considered himself something of a guardian for Nino, and that in fact, thanks should be given to Lof, who remained on the sidelines. In armor, the man reminded that their opponent was a demon who had the power to control the undead. Meanwhile, the blonde teased the girl, but she sharply replied that he was just an annoying connection that could not be broken, and the young man in response reminded that it was he who taught her the art of survival. The girl held out an intricately cut glass bottle. It was high-quality holy water that Sister Rhea had given her before leaving. She had insisted that it would help in the fight against the undead. Noah looked at the vial with disbelief, wondering if it was really that valuable, when a voice came from behind him, telling him to prepare to bathe in holy water. Later, the three heroes made their way through the forest, using a map that showed a direct route to the estate. One of them expressed doubts about whether they were going in the right direction, but the girl confidently declared that the direction was correct. Despite their confidence in the route, none of them could understand why, although the building was visible ahead, they did not get closer to it. The anxiety grew. The girl activated the technique, seeing through the veil, the ability to see traps and illusions. However, she did not find anything unusual, which caused even more questions among the companions. Then an aggressive Ennet, a tree monster of the Trent type, appeared in the forest again, instantly attacking the group. The girl screamed, and the others went into combat readiness. As one of the branches grabbed Nino, her name was heard in a scream. The second warrior with the shield immediately realized the advance to the goal was blocked by these trees. When the monsters blocked the way again, the heroes realized the forest literally rewrites its landscape. This is not an illusion, but a real distortion of the route, so Nino's technique turned out to be useless. Tied up with vines, the girl tried to free herself furiously and compared the situation with her earlier capture by the zombie dragon with annoyance. Her voice trembled with irritation. At this point, the knight commanded her to hide behind his back while he took up defensive positions. The girl, instantly coming to her senses, pushed off the ground and bounced back to her allies. Having realized the nature of the trap, the man declares decisively that they can now more easily deal with the situation. Without waiting for the passage to be blocked again, he rushes forward with a roar along with two companions, cutting their way through the barrier. The group, breaking through the distortions of the forest, finally notices how the illusion dissipates. A direct path to the mansion opens before them. This means that they have successfully passed. However, the joy does not last long. From behind the bushes appear decaying wolves, animated guards. One of the fighters notes with disgust that the demon must be devoid of taste, since he sends such an abomination upon them. Looking around, the young man comes to the conclusion that, since the undead are already here, it means that the demon is definitely inside the mansion. The others tensely follow his words and the surrounding environment. Their advance is interrupted by two huge barbarians, armed to the teeth. The group realizes that this is not just an ambush. They are being deliberately delayed on their approach. The man calls Nino's name, then turns to Zeke and orders him to go forward alone. The girl nods silently, taking out a vial of liquid. Time to act. Noah calmly points out that if they stay here, new undead will appear again and again. There is no point in trying to deal with them all. They need to eliminate the source. Zeke, confused, demands an explanation, but Nino smiles and says that if the necromancer is destroyed, all the undead will stop. Her tone is calm, despite the tension of the moment. As the zombies continue to surround them, Noah anxiously reminds them that if they delay, they won't be able to save the cult. He grits his teeth. There's almost no time left. Taking a deep breath, Zeke agrees, but warns the others not to overexert themselves. He raises his sword and takes one last look back before heading towards the mansion. Noah's squad strikes hard at the monsters, with swords and holy water tearing through the ranks of the beasts in a blinding burst of energy. One of the demons barely has time to register what is happening before he is impaled by a glittering blade. Rogue then subduedly remarks that it is time to test the power of high-quality holy water, and the group begins to advance. As she shields herself, Noah grits his teeth and charges forward, tearing through the ranks of the living dead. Overcoming the resistance, Noah reaches the massive doors of the mansion and forcefully throws them open, letting a sharp gust of wind into the gloomy hall. The old estate in the forest of evil spirits has finally opened the way for them. As he enters, a voice from somewhere above greets them for their successful arrival. The tall columns and marble walls inside the mansion create an oppressive yet majestic atmosphere. A dark-robed figure emerges from the depths of the room. One of the companions leaps up and, frowning, demands to know where Kulta is. Noah appears ahead, his hand gripping the hilt of his sword. The stranger approaches slowly, waving away the scream. He assures that the meeting with her will take place very soon. This statement causes anxiety in Noah, and he instinctively takes a step back. Suppressing his excitement, he demands an explanation. The woman in the strange wrapping calmly informs him that Kulta is now the result of a necromantic experiment. The souls of the dead were forcibly implanted into her living body. When Noah cries out demanding an explanation of the meaning of these words, the priest behind the girl declares with satisfaction that his experiment is progressing admirably and the goal is almost reached. Using her strongest emotions as a catalyst, he was able to achieve the impossible, create a non-living but not dead being. Her body retains regeneration, but her spirit is overwhelmed by rage and pain. Finally, he adds that he is grateful to her. After all, it was the hatred for the destruction of her family and the thirst for revenge that made Kulta the perfect vessel. Strong feelings and a resilient body turned her into a living weapon. Noah clenches his fist, staring furiously into his enemy's face, and bitterly says that his experiment was a success. Hearing this, his interlocutor does not hold back his anger and calls him a monster with disgust. At this point, the hooded man, covering his face, apologizes, explaining that he was simply reminiscing about the past. Noah looks at him incredulously, while the other man chuckles, prompting a sharp question. What did he find so funny? The woman tells how she was caught by the one who had been chasing her for a long time, and how at the moment of defeat her face contorted as she turned into an undead. This memory awakens a dark satisfaction in her voice. The hooded necromancer, wearing an eye patch, grins, his face twisted in a mad grimace as he calls the result of his work a true masterpiece. With anger in his voice, Noah refuses to let his enemy go alive, despite the pleas of the sword-wielding woman who orders him to live. He has no intention of letting evil go unpunished. Then a new threat enters the fray, one that carries the power of thousands of souls collected over the centuries. Despite Noah being able to defeat the zombie dragon, he is powerless against her. The woman attacks with incredible speed, and Noah barely has time to react, blocking the blow at the last moment. He fails to hide his surprise. She is too fast for him. He admits that he can't keep up with her no matter how hard he tries. Gathering his will, he activates the magic circle and casts a spell, hoping to at least delay her onslaught. One of the observers notes with amazement that Noah is using banishment spells. At this time, Noah himself understands that his spirit assistant Blanche cannot cope with such a number of possessed souls. Gripping the hilt of his sword, he desperately thinks about how to cleanse her completely. But the possessed woman says with ominous certainty that his spell level is insufficient. he will not be able to expel everyone who has possessed her body. Noah looks at the armed girl walking towards him, and the man in black clothes with a tense expression. Despite all the horror of what is happening, he knows that there is still a chance to save her. The cloaked stranger calmly says that there is a way. If Noah can use a light spell called Le Soleil, perhaps the girl will be saved. In the silence, Noah puts his hands together in a prayer gesture, concentrating the power within himself. At that moment, the man with the bandage on his head looks at him in amazement. A spell that was considered the pinnacle of Sister Femme's light magic is awakening before him. The voice in the explanation says that Le Soleil requires that a person temporarily accept the spirit of light into himself, allowing it to cleanse everything around him of evil and filth. Standing in the center of the magic circle, Noah bows his head, feeling the light penetrate his body. He prays, addressing the sun as the highest principle, hoping that its power will be enough. In parallel, the story of a necromancer whose main goal was to create the perfect undead is revealed. It was the demon Valgerma, who dedicated his life to what all dark magicians dream of. He conducted endless experiments, regardless of victims or methods. Only one result concerned him: to find a way to make the ideal of eternal undeath a reality. The girl explains that the key to this was the culta spell, which allows dead souls to take over the body of a living person, thereby uniting the living and the undead into one. However, such a fusion leads to terrible consequences. Ordinary people cannot withstand contact with dead spirits. Their bodies reject the alien essence, which leads to a painful death. The reason lies in incompatibility. The human body is not capable of holding a dead spirit. But Valgerma did not stop and found a barbaric, horrific solution to this problem. The monster, rising into the air against the backdrop of a blazing sunset, proclaims with insane confidence the solution to its task: to choose a village, destroy it, and indiscriminately slaughter all the inhabitants. Noah explains with horror that the murdered become spirits of the dead, full of hatred and thirst for revenge. It is important to leave at least one witness alive, so that the pain and rage can take deeper root. The woman adds that such a survivor, consumed by hatred, becomes a vessel capable of withstanding the onslaught of spirits. Thus is born the ideal host, suitable for transformation into a perfect undead. The man in the robe smugly says that this spell is the fruit of Valgerma's idea, the result of many years of cruel experiments and inhuman sacrifices. However, despite the horror of this magic, Noah prepares a counterspell. A stream of blinding light from the heavens tears apart the darkness. Everything around is illuminated with a radiance that can change fate. The dark mage screams in panic, trying to stop the process. His hands reach forward, but the figure in the light disappears, leaving him in despair. Everything he strived for is crumbling. A moment later, Noah appears, holding the unconscious girl in his arms. He feels the dark spirits leave her body. It's over. She's herself again. He carries her away as the other man, filled with rage, cannot believe his eyes. He screams, "How dare someone like Noah use Le Soleil, the light magic available to the chosen few?" A madman, warped by time, snaps. He spent decades creating this spell. How many people did he sacrifice to get even one suitable host? And now all is lost because of one boy. Noah, standing calmly and drawing his sword, looks at the sorcerer. His voice is cold. For the sake of his science, he took away from many people their most precious things. This was not progress. It was a crime. Noah looks his enemy in the face with anger and asks a blood-curdling question. Does he understand how much life costs? In response, the enemy, shaking with tension, only shouts the order: "Silence!" A terrifying monster with a skull for a face emerges from the shadows, hurling accusations at Noah, demanding blood for his transgression, and calling the young man a worthless man. Despite the thundering roar approaching with the monster, Noah remains in place, clutching the hilt of his sword. Somewhere off to the side, Liza notices. The enemy's attacks are comparable in strength to her older sister, Riza. Noah's sword cuts through the air. He decides that he will not yield in strength even to such an enemy. With this blade in his hands, he feels that he can defeat any beast. The enemy's wingspan raises a storm as the cloaked skeleton throws a hateful threat at Noah's face. "Begone, human!" Noah dodges, maintaining his focus. He counterattacks, a blade flashing across the space, rushing towards the enemy, who is panicking and trying to hide in the folds of his robe. Breathing heavily, Noah remains on guard. His opponent, stunned by the injury, says with a hint of respect, "Amazing, you actually managed to hit me." The transformed mage, covered in blood and growing into something inhuman, laughs, his voice full of delight. Before him stands a perfect vessel. Noah, realizing that killing him won't solve anything, changes tactics. He frowns at his enemy and declares that he won't kill him. Instead, he'll capture him alive. Woven from bodies and madness, a mutant with dozens of sinister mouths threatens Noah with a new fate, to become his next test subject. A huge monster, with a body twisted by experiments, raised its paw, declaring that it was time for a new test. Its movements were accompanied by a booming roar and swirls of dark energy, as if magic itself was afraid to come near. Noah watched the enemy's recovery with anxiety, breathing heavily. He felt his strength leaving his body. His mana was almost gone, and his muscles were filled with lead. A thought flashed through his mind. Was it possible to retreat, taking the unconscious cult with him? Suddenly, a creepy figure with a skull instead of a face appeared before him. With a predatory grin, she promised to first take everyone dear to him, and to do it in front of his eyes, enjoying every moment. Images of friends and allies appeared one after another. Exhausted, defeated, the creature whispered viciously that it would kill them one by one, slowly and cruelly, extracting their souls to replenish its twisted power. Determination flared in Noah's chest. He could not let this thing touch those he had sworn to protect. The blade of light, laced with magic, glowed in his hand as he raised it, ready to deliver the finishing blow. He took a step forward, aiming for the enemy's vulnerable part, the place where even foul magic could not restore flesh. This was his chance, albeit his last, to strike the source of his enemy's power with a magical weapon. The hooded skull did not flinch. He recognized that the enemy was gaining will. His light was unbearably bright. It was dangerous, even for him, but he accepted the challenge, ready to fight in earnest. The undead's face twisted in a grimace of interest. He felt the boy's will grow stronger, and the light mana, cleansing and destructive, grew stronger. And yet, he was confident in himself. He would accept the fight. Noah lunged forward, leaving a trail of light behind him. His blade sank into the ground, causing an explosion of light. The ground cracked, the air vibrated, but the enemy was already closing in from behind, overcoming the pressure of magic. The boy managed to turn around. The enemy became faster. But despite this, Noah shrank in motion, instinctively dodging. He could still fight. Even now, when the fight was becoming impossible, he felt that he could dodge. Noah stood confidently with his sword at the ready, commanding the giant skeletal monster to move as he wished, preparing to deliver the finishing blow. The enemy froze in confusion. Unable to believe what was happening, his empty eye sockets seemed to express incomprehension and shock. Raisa shouted at Zeke to act without delay, and he, stunned by what had happened, raised his weapon, preparing for the next maneuver. Noah's sword emitted a bright flash of light, turning into a magical weapon capable of piercing the darkness and the skull-like face of the enemy. He performed an attack called the Lone Flash, putting all his strength and determination into the strike as the enemy tensed in anticipation of the inevitable blow. Pain shot through the enemy's flaming skull. He mentally acknowledged that he had weakened his defenses and considered running away, while Noah, breathing heavily, maintained a determined look. Raisa dropped to one knee, clutching the hilt of her sword tightly, as a monster with dozens of tentacles and a grinning skull-like head fell with a crash behind her. The huge skull with long white hair began to crumble, cracks running across its surface, turning it into a pile of rubble. Noah, exhausted, noted that a little more, and the fight could end in defeat, and then called out to Zeke, who hurried to him. At this point, Noah realized that Kulta had come to her senses and reported that he had thrown the knife after noticing that she was in danger. Kulta, waking up, looks around with a confused look, and her companion asks in confusion what is happening and what kind of monster it was that was just defeated. She notices with surprise that she is almost naked and admits that she does not remember anything after the abduction. Her memories are cut off. Noah calmly says that she hasn't caused any particular problems. But another participant in the scene admits with a good-natured laugh that Kulta seems to have caused quite a bit of trouble. She then approaches Zeke and tells him with warm gratitude that he freed her family, adding with a smile that he is full of unexpected surprises. One of the heroes asks how she feels, and Kulta, with slight confusion, replies that everything seems to be fine. She notices that she feels lighter than usual, and suggests that it might be the influence of the light of Le Soleil, which a nearby character agrees with. The man remembers how his sister claimed that light magic helps with shoulder pain, but then becomes embarrassed and asks her to forget that he said that. Suddenly, Nino and Luga burst into the room, bloody but whole, and the girl runs towards her sister, screaming and unable to contain her emotions. She pounces on Noah and hugs him tightly. Catching him off guard, he barely keeps his balance and tells him to be careful. Tears roll down her cheeks as she, shaking from the horror she has experienced, says that she was worried, not knowing whether her sister was alive, and admits how glad she is to see her alive and well. Kulta repentantly asks Nino for forgiveness, promising to never get involved in such dangerous adventures again, while Zeke is seen looking exhausted and tired. Luga says that in the midst of the battle, all the undead suddenly stopped moving, and so they rushed to the scene of the battle, thinking that everything was already over. He then shares with Zeke his observation of how strong and capable their enemy was, the demon that controlled the army of the dead during the battle. Nino happily thanks the hero for his help and unexpectedly suggests that they all go on vacation together sometime, surprising his interlocutor. Luga admits that if they hadn't been there, Nino could have gotten hurt. But the other participant in the dialogue asks not to speak so coldly and clenches his fist. With a kind smile, Zeke reminds them that they are a team, thereby strengthening the spirit of unity and mutual support. Inspired by the words, Luga emotionally exclaims that Zeke is indeed a kind person, and Zeke in return hugs him with such force that he involuntarily cries out. While discussing the remains of the defeated demon, Noah is surprised that they are so valuable and can be used as raw material for weapons, after which the group decides to take them with them. However, when everyone gathers, Noah suddenly notices the loss and wonders with bewilderment where the demon's head went. He looks up and notices a sinister laugh coming from above them, and the head itself is nowhere to be seen. It has somehow disappeared, causing an uneasy feeling of foreboding. A mysterious figure towers over the heroes, offering subdued praise to the man who defeated it, to which the group reacts with surprise and alarm. The creature admits that its strength is running out, and it can no longer exist in this state for long, but vows to drag as many enemies down with it as possible. It sarcastically calls the winner a talented man, and then ominously offers to receive a reward, causing the hero to cry out in despair. After all, it is already impossible to stop what is happening. Sacrificing the last of its life, the creature casts a dark spell, calling upon the forces of the demonic world and commanding them to accept its power. A frightening creature with a giant eye appears, and from the depths of the underworld, a demon dragon is summoned, the Chimera, with a multi-headed snake-like body. The creature thunders into the sky, its many mouths spewing destruction as the earth shakes from the explosion that engulfs everything around it. The heroes get out, but looking back, they notice something terrifying behind them. One of them realizes with horror, it is a Chimera, a monster of the catastrophic class. Someone notes that the monster will most likely head towards Lavasia to take as many people as possible with it. He blames himself for underestimating the enemy and not finishing him off. One of the heroes abruptly orders everyone to flee, but his companions are in disarray. They cannot leave him alone, even in the face of an impending threat. Noah yells at Zeke to get back to the city and start the evacuation, but Zeke is adamant that he will hold off the enemy, because if he stays, at least someone might survive. Nokaf firmly states that he will not allow himself to be killed along with the people of Lafuja, and begs his companions to leave before the Chimera begins its attack. The girl exclaims, turning to Lovga, as he silently turns and walks away, and the other stares after him in silence, wondering if she really is his older sister. With his back turned, Nofua remains silent as the man bitterly asks for his forgiveness. In response, Nofua tells him to be sure to save the people of Lakuja. The girl screams in desperation for Zeke not to fight alone as he charges forward with determination towards the approaching threat. Noah assesses the situation and realizes that no matter how hard he tries, he won't be able to hold out against the Chimera for more than 3 minutes. The woman angrily tells her companion that even these 3 minutes will be enough for the other 3 to escape. Holding the sword with difficulty, Noah remembers how long it has been since he was covered from head to toe in wounds. The last time this happened was during his training with Ryza. In a flashback, Ryza instructs Noah that if he wants to become a true swordsman, he must remember that when you reach your limit and can't even hold a weapon, that's the moment of truth. She explains that if you have the spirit to not give up, you can always get up and keep fighting. With a stern expression, she concludes her instruction, telling Noah to remember her words forever, to carve them into his heart. Noah, gritting his teeth and gathering his will into a fist, loudly challenges the monster to a fight, while the monster, with eyes full of rage, drills his gaze into his. Off-screen, someone comments admiringly on Noah's courage, as if agreeing with his decisive statement. Suddenly, Noah freezes in surprise when he notices a weapon approaching, a spear piercing the air at an alarming speed. With a swing of his sword, Noah strikes the monstrous eye hand, causing a concentrated beam to burst out of the pupil, and Noah himself quickly rushes forward. Raiza unleashes a flurry of attacks on the multi-headed snake, a whirlwind of slashing blows in the air, followed by a blinding flash of her quadruple strike move. Noah is startled when a bulky mechanism appears in front of him, making strange sounds and causing alarm. A sudden roar makes everyone wary, and Noah, recognizing the rapidly approaching figure, exclaims, "It's Raiza!" Taking a step forward, he notes with a grin that he expected more resistance from his opponent, and now he does not feel satisfied. Looking at the fallen monster, he dismissively remarks that its only virtue was its size, and then makes a confident movement with his hand, preparing to move on. Raiza, coming closer, extends her hand to Noah and calmly calls him to come home. Hearing Raiza's voice, Noah takes off and runs away without looking back. The girl exclaims his name in confusion, and the man behind him turns around, not understanding what is happening. Noah silently apologizes to Luga, Nino, and Kulta for leaving without saying goodbye, explaining that since he was found by his older sister, Raiza, more terrifying than any Hydra, he has no choice but to run. However, his escape attempt was unsuccessful. Raiza appeared right in front of him with an icy expression, leaving Noah frozen. Her quiet but threatening voice asks if he really thinks he can escape in such a state. Returning to the others, Raiza holds Noah in her arms with an unperturbed expression. The companions watching this scene are perplexed. One of them asks if he needs to be saved, but Noah only whispers in confusion that he can explain everything. While Raiza continues to hold him with a serious face, Kulta, in an accusatory tone, recalls how Noah sacrificed himself to save them, and now suddenly returns in the arms of a stranger, causing her bewilderment. Turning to him, the girl says sadly that she is sorry. They were too weak, and because of this he was forced to fight alone. She then promises to become stronger and asks Noah to never sacrifice himself again. Her words touch Noah, and when she asks him to make a promise, he, a little embarrassed but sincere, agrees. The rest of the group watches in silence, realizing the gravity of the moment, but the tension doesn't go away. Raiza, looking closely at Kulta's face, suddenly asks if this woman can be considered an enemy. The others are shocked, and Kulta is at a loss as to where such an idea came from. Noah quickly intervenes, begging everyone not to reach for their swords. He states that the cult is on their side, and asks everyone to remain calm. He will explain everything as soon as he can. Finally, one of the warriors recognizes Raiza and exclaims her name, Swordmaster. Raiza confirms her identity with a slight grin, completely shocking everyone present. Noah admits that he lied and his real name is indeed Noah, not Zeke. He sheepishly apologizes to his comrades, looking down and looking guilty. Raiza asks everyone to keep their relationship a secret. One of the men notes with admiration that everything is now in its place, but warns that if this news reaches the others, especially Lavij, there will be a stir. Raiza is adamant that she will take Noah home with her, emphasizing that she does not want to spread the word that he is her younger brother, at least until they report to the guild that the Hydra has been destroyed. She thanks the group for caring for Noah on behalf of his sister. The others react with confusion. One of them wants to question what is happening. Another struggles to find the words to address Raiza. One of the squad members wonders why Noah looks so displeased, even though everything seemed to be resolved. In the background is the silent grimace of an offended guy and a frightened miniature of Raiza. Raiza calls Noah enthusiastically and demands that he look at her, spreading his arms wide. Noah remains with the same sour expression, stubbornly looking away. She remembers how Noah once wanted to learn everything from her, and now, after rethinking, she is going to teach him seriously. From the sidelines, observers comment on how unusually embarrassed the Swordmaster looks. Raiza proudly takes out a notebook with notes on all of her fencing techniques and exclaims that even a clumsy person like Noah will become an ordinary swordsman in 5 years if he studies from these notes. She harshly accuses Noah of being naive and says that's why he couldn't defeat the Hydra. Noah counters that he defeated the demon almost single-handedly, and the other girl calmly states that he is already superior to an ordinary swordsman. Raiza begs Noah to come home with her, assuring her that she will be gentler this time. Noah looks away silently, showing no desire to go with her, and the atmosphere remains tense. Noah, with a trembling smile, as if releasing internal pressure, looks regretfully at Raiza through the cracking glass of the magical barrier and admits that he wants to stay here, no matter what. Raiza, with a downcast look and restrained emotions, asks if he really hates her instructions so much. Noah, sitting a little to the side, quietly confirms this, which offends her. He begins to justify himself, explaining that thanks to her he was able to become an adventurer, even though her training was harsh. Raiza, hearing this, tries to say something in response in surprise, but he interrupts. Noah continues. It is precisely because she is always there and stronger than him that he does not think it is right to constantly rely on her and hide in her shadow. Raiza freezes. He says bluntly that her power is both a gift and a curse, because around her it becomes too easy to simply let her control everything, forgetting to develop yourself. Noah admits that he can't get rid of his inferiority complex if he remains in her shadow, and decides to stay in Loveday to become stronger in his own way, on his own path. He confidently declares that he wants to continue the journey with this group, with those who have become close to him. In the background, 3 companions, looking at him with surprise and warmth. Raiza silently clenches her fist and, after a moment's silence, says his name. Then she raises her hand sharply, ordering him not to rejoice too soon. She has 2 conditions before he can stay. Embarrassed, she covers her mouth with her hand, blushing, while Noah, looking at each other in confusion, asks again about the conditions, not believing what is happening. Raiza blushes even more, loudly declaring that she forbids him to be intimate with anyone without her permission. Noah, shocked and unsure of how to react, looks at her with wide eyes. Raiza abruptly states that she will not allow Noah to get close to anyone without her approval. Moreover, if he suddenly decides to date someone, he should contact her first. She sternly reminds him that there is a second condition. While Noah is dumbfounded by her words, another girl with a mischievous expression leans over and whispers, reminding him of the second point, while a tense atmosphere thickens above their heads. Raiza points to herself and says with a serious expression that he must strike her by any means necessary. Noah is clearly not thrilled, but he agrees. Raiza adds that if he succeeds, she will let him stay in Loveday and will not tell any of the sisters where he is. He tries to offer an alternative, to kill the monster to prove his strength. But Raiza categorically refuses. She needs to feel its power personally. The man next to her comments that any attack on her is suicide. Noah remembers how they fought many times before, but he was never able to even touch her in combat. Even if she asks, it is almost impossible. Raiza looks him in the eye and asks if this means he is giving up and going home. There is hesitation in his gaze. Under the gaze of those around him, Noah finally makes up his mind and, albeit hesitantly, answers, "Okay," agreeing to the fight. Raiza nods, saying that it's a reasonable decision, since he has almost no chance of even touching her. Noah just looks down and says that they'll report to the guild and go home. At the last moment, Raiza offers to make his favorite dish with a smile before they leave, but another girl suddenly volunteers to do it herself, much to everyone's surprise. Noah accepts the challenge with determination in her voice and vows that she will be able to strike her older sister. Raiza, surprised by his determination, remarks that he is no longer afraid of her. Noah, slightly confused, agrees. Apparently, he really has gained experience. Raiza turns to the man and asks if he is Mr. Longa. He, a little confused, confirms that he is. She wonders if there is a suitable place in Loveday for the duel, preferably one where outsiders cannot observe them. The man enthusiastically says he knows such a place. Another character, hidden under the helmet, tells him to reserve the location and keep the change. Raiza informs Noah that their duel will take place in 3 days. Meanwhile, one of the men happily comments on how much is to come. She demands that he show what he can do and prove that he can get her. Noah, with his eyes shining, declares that he will not lose to his sister Raiza. The guild leader apologizes for the sudden request and sincerely thanks Raiza for coming to Loveday. Raiza replies that she doesn't need any thanks, but she thinks to herself that she really came here for Noah. One of the older men praises the group for successfully reclaiming the cult, and Noah and his comrades sincerely thank him for the recognition. The girl politely asks for a report while placing cups on the living room table. An elderly man speaks with shock about the fact that a higher demon, capable of summoning a hydra, has entered the human world. One of the characters reports that something disturbing may be happening in the demon world, while the others sit silently, lost in thought. The man orders Lumelia to send a message to headquarters immediately, and she enthusiastically follows the order, jumping into action. One of the people present comments on how fast she always is. The man, standing with his back to the group, addresses them again. The listeners perceive his words with surprise and attention. The veteran branch leader of the Loveday Guild notes with gratitude that the heroes showed true adventurer spirit by taking risks to protect others. He sincerely thanks them all for their courage and dedication. Noah, standing at the massive fortress wall under the starry sky, says that it seems it is time for them to go their separate ways for today. Noah confirms that he must deliver the requested materials to the chief, and Zeke reminds him that he will meet with Chief Barg tomorrow. One of the men asks Longa if he would like to join them, and he responds with a little hesitation. The girl persistently asks for permission to stay with him for the night, but he, answering reservedly, says that they have some small business in the morning and suggests meeting at the chieftain's workshop. She addresses him by his name, Noah, but he immediately corrects her, reminding her that here his name is Zeke. The girl, a little embarrassed, asks Zeke if she can stay with him tonight. He reacts with surprise. Reese bursts in, flying through the air, and explains that she arrived in such a hurry that she didn't even have time to book a room. Noah agrees to check with the innkeeper about the possibility of accommodation, to which the girl thanks him, and their comrade silently watches the scene. She, having cheered up, suggests taking advantage of the opportunity and implementing the previously conceived plan. The girl smiles and suggests taking a bath together, since they haven't seen each other for a long time. Noah abruptly yanks someone's sleeve and categorically refuses, stating that this will not happen. He remarks that Zeke must be very tired, and the girl, frowning, says that it would be better for him to rest alone. She adds that if he contacts the guild, they will probably find him a room for the night. He asks again, surprised. Rise gripped her sword, her eyes blazing, and furiously accused the man of being a hidden enemy. The tiny figure next to her angrily demanded that she stop raising her voice. Despite her fatigue, Rise said she intended to continue on her way. Noah and his partner exchanged glances and advised her not to persist and allow herself a full rest. The girl suggested contacting the guild to get a separate room. The guy nodded with relief, agreeing with this reasonable decision. Rise had coldly warned him that in 3 days, in their fight, she would crush him so much that he would never rise again. The boy wondered with surprise where so much anger was coming from and what he could have done to cause such a reaction. Birds sang above the trees, and in their shade stood Barg's workshop, a shabby but sturdy building that smelled of iron and oil. She stood there, her shoulders slumped, tasting defeat. The man, watching her, commented on the dejection on her face. The broad-shouldered blacksmith in the bandana informed him that the sword now belonged to the boy, because he had carried out his task and obtained polishing materials from rock tatouage. He watched with a satisfied grin as the metal gleamed in the light. The muscular master noted with admiration that the young man's body had become more impressive, and his muscles had reached a new level. The boy himself reacted shyly, not knowing how to perceive the praise. The older man looked around the building from the outside and noticed that everything looked perfect, but he sensed the tension in the man sitting there. He admitted that the search had been successful, but there was doubt in his voice. He began talking about a serious incident that had happened since their last meeting. His interlocutor tensed up and hurried to find out what exactly he was talking about. The old man exclaimed in surprise when he learned that a duel was planned with Raiza herself, a recognized master of the sword. The blacksmith asked with interest what exactly had happened. The young man sighed and said that he could not go into details. It all happened in the midst of an unexpected event. The old man repeated the phrase, "in the heat of the moment," out loud, as if tasting it, and then grinned, deciding that he was talking about the reckless emotions of youth. The young man watched him, puzzled. The old man remembered how, in his youth, he himself had challenged his mentor, a blacksmith. At that moment, the boy showed him a glowing piece of metal, and the figure standing next to him noticed that he had become different, but accepted it anyway. The blacksmith, with the bandage on his forehead, thought he had 3 days to defeat the swordmaster with one blow. His companion felt with alarm how unstable the whole situation was. He unexpectedly offered to help, admitting that he sometimes enjoyed taking risks. The young man looked at him in amazement and agreed to give him some time. Noah told how he once decided to run away from his home and ended up in Lavesia, where he met creatures resembling giant insects and went through a new life experience. For the first time, Rin's thought about how everyone was calling her strong. The words began to take on a new meaning for her. Noah realized that he couldn't even imagine raising a weapon against Raiza, his older partner, whom he both respected and feared. The man in armor leaned forward and asked the young man, who was clearly stunned, if he was really there, in body and mind. The man looks at the 3 wounded men standing in front of him with a worried expression on his face and asks what happened to them. The tall warrior is genuinely surprised to learn that the woman sitting next to him was trained by her elder sister, while the 2 companions follow the conversation closely. The young man notes with amazement that one of the participants is still alive, and wonders why he continues to fight. The girl calmly says that the decisive battle will take place in 3 days, and the young man is surprised by this news. She explains that the encounter was designed to expose the enemy's weaknesses and behavioral patterns in order to help her partner find an opportunity to strike effectively. Confidently asserting her own superiority, she adds that she had no weak points, and the man standing next to her regretfully admits that they were defeated because of her overwhelming advantage. He realizes that all these efforts and trials were done for the sake of his own preparation and success. Sitting on a wooden bench, the girl admits with a frustrated look that she expected to cope with what was happening better, because she considers herself an experienced adventurer. Someone nearby is surprised by her frankness. Noah, frowning, asks for an explanation, and the woman with the eye patch shares a thought that occurred to her during one of her recent fights. Rise explains that the swordmaster takes pride in victories achieved solely with the blade, and the interlocutor acknowledges that she is the true bearer of that title. One of the participants in the conversation emphasizes that adventurers use the terrain, set traps, and use auxiliary means along with weapons. The woman explains that combat tactics are based not only on technique, but also on interaction with the environment and the ability to control the enemy's behavior. The young man reflects that he sought to master the adventurer style for the sake of growth, but now he fears that he might fail. The girl carefully evaluates the enemy's actions and notices that his style is very reminiscent of the approach of a real adventurer. He says that if the sword technique proves insufficient, he is ready to resort to other methods, since he too is one of them. The girl becomes embarrassed, blushes, and quietly agrees. The broad-shouldered man listens to the noise and asks what caused it, while the 3 people around him scream in fear. Noah suddenly jumps out of the wooden box, and a throwing star hits the floor with a dull sound. An elderly craftsman explains to a young man and a child that he has made several devices, assuming that they might be useful in the future. One of the characters says that the weapon resembles a kunai. It is difficult to handle, but when it hits a target, it causes an explosion, causing significant damage. Rogue enthusiastically agrees, and the man next to him thoughtfully evaluates the possible usefulness of the strange object he holds in his hands. The girl admits that her skills with this weapon leave much to be desired, but despite this, she offers to show how to throw it correctly. The little girl explains to the surprised boy that she is familiar with such tools, and even knows at what moment the throw will be most effective. One of the heroes bows respectfully before Master Nino, and asks him to teach him with a determined look, demonstrating his willingness to learn. The girl warns Zeke to stop acting the way he has been, promising to teach him a more acceptable way, and he calls out to Nino in confusion. The man offers Zeke to master the shield defense technique, assuring him that this skill may come in handy in the near future. He replies that he is ready to try, but doubts his abilities. But the woman with her hair pulled back into a ponytail assures him with a smile that she is not against it and asks what the doubts are. He wonders if they are being too flippant in revealing such valuable techniques, which are only available to experienced adventurers. One of those present expresses disbelief at what he has heard, raising 2 fingers, as if trying to clarify the meaning of what was said. Noah throws 2 knives into the air, thinking that if it weren't for the appearance of one man and Lovejoy, they might not have survived the recent events. He offers to do everything he can to help, and then promises to share a technique that does not require the use of a blade. The man is noticeably nervous, trying to say something important, but has difficulty finding the right words. The girl admits that they would like to continue their adventures with Zeke, and wonders why Luga seems embarrassed. He recalls how it was meeting these people in Loveja that completely changed his outlook on life. He admits internally that he could never have imagined the moment when he would have the chance to strike his older sister. Noah warns that there is little time left, and suggests preparing for a difficult test, to which Rise nods seriously. He turns to Zeke, asking him to listen carefully, and explains what the basis of throwing technique is. The girl shares that her task is to control the trajectory of the weapon, while activating a device built into her sleeve that resembles claws. She specifies that in doing so, she will only spend the minimum amount of mana necessary to hold and stabilize the weapon. The man confidently states that thanks to his shield technique, he managed to catch his enemy off guard, forcing him to turn around at the most inopportune moment. He adds that he is able to change the direction of his weapon's flight at the very last moment when faced with an enemy strike. Noah watches Zeke admire his armor, but soon notices unnatural lines in its design. Rise explains that her bladeless combat technique is based on the manifestation of blades of mana and requires a continuous flow of it, and Zeke agrees to train in the constant retention of energy. The girl thinks that he quickly masters throwing and the shield, but understands that the unarmed style will require much more from him. The boy quietly mutters that this requires constant expenditure of mana, while the shield and throwing require minimal. He notices that the energy blade maintains a stable shape when activated, not losing its shape even when the mana flow fluctuates. The girl thinks with amazement that what he mastered in half an hour took her 3 days, and mentally admits that he is not the easiest student. Noah convinces his companion not to doubt himself, even when he lowers the cloth over his eyes, as if intending to practice blindfolded. Noah starts to explain something hastily, but another character puts a finger on his lips, making it clear that it's better to remain silent now. Noah deftly grabs the man from behind and asks him to hold the blade's shape, preventing the mani from falling apart. He lightly kicks him in the back while he complains of pain, while encouraging him that the blade did not break and the technique is worthy of praise. The girl says she would like to be like Zeke, and a man standing nearby notes that everyone seems to be having fun with these workouts. The man asks Nino with concern what happened, noticing the fear appearing on her face. Noah tells the others that he feels an inexplicable wave of hostility as they stand face to face. The opponent looks him in the eye with an icy gaze, declaring her intention to take his life. The woman remembers in her mind how she followed the 3 fighters who were going to meet Noah after the morning training, and is glad that she did it. He mock threatens that he will be the next one to get tickled, while simultaneously expressing his displeasure that even a pretty girl likes Noah. She indignantly demands an explanation from Noah as to why he is enjoying what is happening. Noah, with a cheerful expression, sits a little boy on his lap who, in an attempt to stop him, thinks that he has gone too far. He catches himself thinking that someone nearby is laughing, and this awakens a strange feeling in him. The girl reflects on how she hasn't seen Noah smile so sincerely and widely in a long time. The boy assures his older sister, Rise, that he can continue on despite the sweat and fatigue he already feels. Noah approaches Rise with an offer to have another fight, emphasizing this by respectfully addressing her as an older sister. The girl, beaming with excitement, happily calls out to Raiza, showing genuine affection. He clenches his fist and reflects that all these past years have been dedicated exclusively to rigorous training. 3 people gather around Noah, persistent, asking questions and wondering if there is anything important they should know. The woman asks with concern in her voice if he still needs her. Panoramic views are revealed by the luxurious Le Luxon Hotel in Lavja, which impresses with its sophisticated interior. Rise sighs nervously and admits that he can't relax even in such an elegant setting. Someone's hand moves suddenly, and the character bitterly admits how depressed he feels. A figure wrapped in cloth announces that the demon has been defeated. The man emphasizes that someone accepted the challenge without hesitation, thereby demonstrating maturity and fortitude. Noah confidently states that he can no longer be attributed to a lack of talent. He has already surpassed the average swordsman. He recalls how before he became a real fighter, he lacked fighting spirit. Rise chides Noah for his lack of fighting spirit as he lies on the ground after a grueling workout, and demands to know why his hard work has not awakened his fortitude. One of the observers is stunned, not believing that someone could have made so much progress in just a month. However, after the explanations, he realizes the essence of what is happening and accepts what he sees. The girl tells her sister with irritation that everything that is happening is the fanatic's fault, and adds with relief that she has finally understood this. She compliments Zeke, calling him cool, and he laughs. Inwardly, she notes that she understands his desire to impress, since Noah is still young and she is quite pretty. She realizes that Noah is not backing down from fights, trying to appear strong in front of another girl he is attracted to. Rise looks at Noah with a firm expression, letting him know that he should stop and listen to her. The girl says with determination in her voice that she intends to clear up someone's misconceptions, preparing for immediate action. Rise solemnly announces the beginning of their duel, demonstrating full combat readiness. She closes her eyes, feigning remorse, and says that from now on she will become softer and kinder. Noah steps forward, confidently demonstrating a precise sword strike that conveys his entire inner mood. The girl, blushing slightly, notes to herself that progress is slow but steady. Rise promises that she will be more attentive to the man so that one day he will confess his love to her. Clenching her fist, she declares with determination that she will fight with all her might. In the middle of the crowd, a young man suddenly hears his own stomach growling loudly. One of the passers-by offers Zeke a spicy sandwich with demon chicken, causing him genuine surprise. Noah thanks Luga for the treat, but Luga warns him to be careful. The food may be too dangerous. The girl notes that everything here is full of movement, and the man explains that Water Street is the heart of the city, where taverns, forges, and pleasure houses stand side by side. After trying the treat, she speaks enthusiastically about its taste, which surprises him. The man adds that such food should energize Zeke, and suggests stopping by a good store after the fight. The woman watches Longa suspiciously, wondering if he is trying to seduce Zeke again, and Zeke pushing the boy, urging him not to back down, while the other boy is confident that he can handle it. One of the companions threatens to complain to Miss Rise if the persecution does not stop, and the other laughs and offers to do it right now, accompanying the words with the crunch of potatoes and the clinking of a bottle. Noah sits on a bench, confused. A girl stands next to him asking what he has. A boy hands him a spicy fry and soda, and another reproachfully calls him a fool. She suggests that he may be weakened by hunger, and offers him a special drink that supposedly clears the mind. The girl explains that she shared the food because she believes in the other person's victory and wants to support him. While Noah remains silent, two women nearby praise someone for a job well done. The man asks if everyone is ready, and Noah takes a sip at the bar, not losing his resolve. He nods confidently and expresses his readiness to move forward. One of the men asks how the other managed to find a place for a duel right in the business district, and is told that the one who knows what's going on is always one step ahead. The man grins smugly, while the other two characters remind him in surprise that this is something the so-called Master of Water Street is supposed to be doing. One of the men, arms crossed, begins to laugh loudly, and his interlocutor recalls that Longa received his nickname for his unbridled nature, and sarcastically calls him narrow-minded. One of the characters wonders if the root of all people's troubles lies in money. The man in armor begins to explain that everything happened due to certain circumstances, and someone behind him listens attentively. One of the men claims to have managed to reserve the entire premises, while the other one asks doubtfully if it is a bar. The man in armor invites you to go inside and see everything for yourself. Two people enter an empty tavern, and one of them says with surprise that there is clearly no room for a duel here. The characters notice a figure approaching, and one informs the others that their older sister is waiting for them outside the door. The girl with a confident look declares that she is completely ready for the fight. One of the men invites his opponent to go down to the underground arena of a famous dueling bar. Rogue explains that the place used to be an arena where people would watch bloody battles amid smoke and booze. The man clarifies that the establishment had to be closed because the costs of maintaining the equipment exceeded possible income. Lisa adds that now this place is just ruins, containing traces of many brave and strong fighters. She notes to herself that the Swordmaster's behavior changes dramatically once a real battle begins. The woman blames the cult and indirectly accuses Noah, while the other two comment with alarm on her furious expression. The man claims that he has already installed a simple protective fence near the shop, but admits that this is clearly not enough. Rishes expresses doubt that the armor will be able to withstand her blows, but the other man calmly assures her that she should not worry. She firmly states that she will fight with a wooden blade, gripping it tightly with both hands. The man asks if it is really a wooden weapon, to which the woman replies that fighting with a real sword could threaten the safety of the city. The young man confidently declares that neither Zeke nor the others will leave the arena without wounds. Noah agrees that Rise is incredibly strong, and then suggests going over the terms of the duel again. One of the participants explains the essence of the fight. If Zeke manages to land at least one blow, victory will be his. She adds that if Zeke fails to attack first, Miss Rise will be declared the winner. Riz informs Noah that he will begin the battle on his signal, and he raises his blade in preparation for the start. The boy addresses Rise as an equal, claiming that he now fights as an adventurer, to which she responds with approval and asks him to show what he has learned. The little girl notices something strange and asks with interest what Noah is doing. Noah notices the hidden threat and tensely prepares for a possible attack. He expresses hope that he can inspire his opponent, but warns that even a momentary loss of concentration can lead to defeat. Suddenly, Rise deftly intercepts the blow, causing a blinding flash upon impact. Noah instinctively steps back from the bright explosion, while Rise is puzzled by the flash and the scattered liquid. He admits that his sister's behavior is predictable, especially in critical situations. Noah explains that when he gets nervous, he always leaves his right side open, considering it his weak point. The woman claims to have used the enemy's previous habits to her advantage, and next to her lies a note stating that the explosives were made by barg and spray liquid when detonated. The young man clarifies that the spectacular explosion was just a greeting, and that someone was actively gesticulating off to the side. Noah claims that he now uses everything he learned as an adventurer in combat and intends to follow those principles to the end. Rise snaps that such cheap tricks are not capable of fooling her, and Noah privately marvels at how far he managed to go. The young fighter acknowledges his opponent's superior training and reveals that they have prepared a special finishing technique, intending to deliver the decisive blow. Rise notices a furious attack infused with fire mana flying through the air, at which point Noah releases a technique called Single Flash. He says with confidence that the only way to victory is to rush headlong into the attack without looking back. Noah and Rin's engage in a fierce battle, and she defies his tenacity with determination, not giving in a single step. She notices that he no longer loses his balance after the attack, and plans to dodge it, but still slows down for a moment. He notices that her first step was unusually slow, and he realizes that his sister is acting carefully, choosing smooth movements to avoid his blows. Noah decides to end the fight quickly and prepares to deliver the finishing blow, while his opponent prepares to counterattack. Rise lets out a loud battle cry and grips his sword tightly, preparing to launch another attack. Their blows follow one after another, and someone says that they will not stop until they have exhausted all their rage. Noah realizes that fire is powerless against her wooden blade. Despite the heat, it does not ignite. Rise feels his mana draining and realizes he needs to change tactics immediately. The woman praises Noah's fire attack and suggests that he intensify his attacks, to which he responds with surprise. Rise warns of approaching dark tentacles, and Noah tenses his grip on the hilt, preparing to deflect the blow. She continues to fight with unwavering determination, while Noah fights not only against enemies, but also against growing fatigue and doubt. He gathers his will, abandons his sword, and forms an empty hand technique, directing mana forward through his palm. She admits that if it weren't for her shield moves, defeat would have been inevitable. The situation almost turned into a disaster. The man is surprised that the wooden weapon did not burst into flames, and the girl admits that she does not know the reason. One observer speculates that Rin strengthened the sword with mana, making it resistant to fire. She says that her mana has changed, becoming unlike anything she has felt before, and he begins to consider this possibility. Noah stubbornly declares that he is able to continue the fight and strike, and the girl listens to him attentively and silently. The woman admits that he has indeed become stronger, and he responds with bewilderment in his voice. Noah notes that this is the first time someone has fought him openly, without tricks or fear. Rise admits that since their reunion, she has come to see him as a mature, capable warrior. The young man asks anxiously why they are fighting, not hiding his confusion. Riz warns Noah that the outside world is dangerous and requires caution. She reminds him of his fight with the Hydra, forcing him to remember what he was like in the face of a real threat. The woman gently tells him that he will be safe at home, and reminds him that his older sisters, Fem, Ciel, Escacia, and Elia, are waiting for them. She quickly assures them that she is able to protect them from any danger that may arise. Noah stands silently, not responding, until someone insists that he go home. The others encourage Zeke not to give up, assuring him that his last attack was close to the mark. Rise clutches her sword, thinking that one hit on Rise won't be enough to win. He decides that he must prove that no matter what the coming threats, he will face them not alone, but together with his comrades. Rise listens with understanding, and Noah says that he is grateful for her concern, but he will not return. She is surprised to hear someone advise her to use a special technique. The man wonders if she is ready to reveal a technique she has only demonstrated once. The boy says he believes that if he can withstand the onslaught and manage to strike, something important will happen. The girl hopefully asks her older sister if she accepts her with all her heart. A woman mockingly calls someone impudent, and then Rise challenges Zeke to try out her secret move. The four fighters line up with their blades drawn, ready to use a special technique, the formation of 4 divine swords. The girl awkwardly admits that she is considered Ciel's older sister while sitting at the table next to the witch's hat. One character is shocked to learn that Raiza has split into 4 parts and crushed him, while another voice offers to help him come to his senses. The woman explains to the man sitting opposite her that Raiza has mastered the Kenki technique, allowing her to split. The girl explains that Kenki is the ability of physical transformation and perfect multi-personality, and the boy asks how it differs from ordinary mana. Rise tells Noah that her alter egos were real and not illusions, and he is amazed that he didn't notice. One of the characters explains that they will have to fight 4 sword masters at once, all of whom bear the name Raiza. Noah orders Zeke to get ready, while the 3 observers watch in amazement. Rise creates 4 copies of herself and states that she will attack with each one at the same time, assuring that she will not be defeated. The woman calmly tells Zeke that it's over for him, as 4 armored warriors line up, ready to attack. The young man exhales heavily, admitting to himself that she is impressive, but tries not to lose his composure. Noah studies the 4 identical fighters carefully, realizing that any of their attacks could take him out with one blow. Someone explains that the older Rise has become slower because she has to control 3 doubles at the same time. Noah analyzes the situation, wondering how to use the weakening of control to his advantage. Watching the figures rise into the air, he forms the blade directly in his hand and uses a throwing technique. Rise responds by launching his weapon into a rapid spin, aiming it at his target. Noah delivers a sharp single blow, repelling the attack of several approaching fighters. She notices the increase in his fire strike and is startled to realize that he is behind her. Rise realizes she is trapped as Noah's blades rush towards her from behind. She admits that he took advantage of her speed reduction caused by the separation, but then adds something important. Noah reflects. Neither he nor the enemy can afford to make a mistake. Any delay will be fatal. He feels that he can maintain his speed even while using alter ego, and is pleased with his growth. He confidently declares that the enemy is within striking range as the 4 fighters raise their swords for the final blow. Rise notices the fiery strike from above and instinctively raises his hands in defense. She explains that Zeke used a magical barrier, redirecting the attack as a magical vortex swirled over the battlefield. Rise realizes she's been outplayed and admits that at this distance, she has no chance of dodging the blow. She blocks the attack, but the other figure quickly moves out of the way of the attack. The observer is amazed at how she used her other self to dodge. Noah grits his teeth and tells himself that this isn't the end. Even if things go beyond his preparation, he will find a way to persevere. He refuses to give up and concentrates, summoning 3 armored spirits to stand behind him. The girl notices with horror that the projectile is a bomb with a fuse, and at the last moment she jumps back, realizing that the enemy intends to fight to the end. As the smoke screen fills the space, she loses sight of Zeke and anxiously searches for where he has disappeared to. The young man tenderly calls the girl his older sister, and she thanks him for his care and support. Noah confesses his love to Risa, expressing his feelings sincerely and without hesitation. He parries her blow with his sword, while the cat-eared girl watches the fight in surprise, and 2 armored figures stand silently to the side. The woman praises him in a reserved manner, calling the task brilliantly completed, and the young man responds with slight surprise and hope in his voice. She hugs Zeke tightly, making it clear that their victory was made possible by the bond strengthened by training together. She thanks him for saving Colt's older sister, calling it simply repayment of a debt, while tightly clutching some object in her hand. The man, unable to hold back his tears, says with admiration that Zeke managed to strike Raiza herself, the legendary swordmaster. Noah thanks his allies for their support as 2 girls carefully adjust his armor, one of the men jokingly remarking that it's a bit tight. He recalls that despite defending himself with a wooden sword, he only managed to land 1 blow on Raiza. A man pushes a massive figure who declares that she must continue to evolve and cannot stop, while 2 observers look on with respect. Noah turns to Rince and asks her to confirm her words, softly addressing her as an older sister. She ironically notes that she might not have said the phrase "I love you" at all, because it would have sounded like a lie, which would have caused confusion in the person standing next to her. He asks his sister to stop sulking, hinting that everyone is looking at them. Noah wonders how his interlocutor knows something, and the other person, in turn, asks what he means. The woman reluctantly admits that he managed to hit her, but wonders how he managed to distinguish her real body from her alter ego. Noah confidently claims that it was his younger brother's intuition, which causes genuine surprise in the observing girl. She exclaims that her double must have been flawless, but he calmly replies that he simply revealed her secret. The young man reminds her with a slight smile that he is her younger brother. Rise insists on a rematch, refusing to admit defeat based on intuition alone, and he reacts with confusion. The man reproaches his older sister, saying that no matter how much she complains, there are things that are impossible, and adds that she trusts her own intuition too much. The girl says ironically that even if his victory was luck, luck is also part of skill. She tells Noah that he no longer needs her, and, without looking, tightens the straps of her armor. Someone explains that harsh words and actions were just a way to make him stronger, while he clutches the edge of the cloth in his hand. The man says that he is now strong enough to move on without him, adding that living with an annoying older sister must not be easy. He begins to wonder if Raisa's confession of love was just a ploy to lower his guard. She cannot hold back her tears, bitterly noting that no one can love such a stern and demanding sister. Noah hugs her from behind, quietly asking her not to say such lonely and sad words again. He says that she is his beloved sister, of whom he is truly proud, and adds that despite the lack of blood relationship, they are still family, and he would always like to be close to her. Noah admits that there will come a time when he, too, will have to leave the nest. She bursts into tears, and he asserts with determination that this moment has already come. Noah calls out to Raisa, while one onlooker wonders if they are arguing, and the woman ponders the meaning of family. The girl suggests visiting him if it is difficult to part, emphasizing that meetings are possible whenever. She says that with his strong legs, distances are not a problem, and invites him to visit Zeke anytime. He silently hopes that his older sister will come to him as soon as possible. The girl suddenly realizes something important after a passing mention, and her face changes. When the boy explains that repeating it too often can be risky, but occasionally is acceptable, she agrees with bated breath, as if she had discovered the truth. She jumps up joyfully and exclaims that she can now see him. Rise tells Zeke with a slight smile that, as an older sister, she fully supports his choice to remain on the path of an adventurer. The woman promises not to tell the other sisters about his return and encourages everyone to enjoy their freedom and explore the world. She encourages Zeke to continue to develop, and he confidently agrees. Relieved and excited, the group expresses their joy at being able to continue their journey together, calling out Zeke's name loudly. One of the men breathes a sigh of relief as he notices that everything is continuing as before, and the other two enthusiastically confirm this. The girl is stunned to hear someone offer the cult to join their squad. Grateful and a little embarrassed, she says she was just about to ask herself, and the others greet her kindly, praising her for choosing Zeke. She tentatively expresses her approval of his efforts, emphasizing that he is indeed worthy of being an adventurer. However, the other young man protests sharply, categorically denying any indecent intentions. Noah explains that he simply invited her to join the team, while the woman, taking this as a personal insult, loses confidence and doubts her attractiveness, causing a mixed reaction among those around her. One of the participants asks not to approach Zeke, another suggests remaining calm, and a third laughs, suggesting that the meeting will be noisy. Noah is walking through the streets of Loveji, contemplating his visit to Barg, when a loud noise is heard nearby, causing passersby to become surprised. At this moment, he runs into Rise, who greets him with obvious surprise on her face, amazed by such an unexpected meeting. She asks why he is still in town when he was supposed to leave, and he, a little embarrassed, admits that he went out at night to see her. He says with an awkward smile that it was a bit excessive, but thanks her anyway, chuckling. The girl explains that her large bag is a magical item that allows her to carry heavy loads when someone asks about her long-term job. With a wide smile, she announces that she is moving into a house she recently purchased in the city. The man was clearly surprised to hear about the purchase of the house, while the woman calmly explained that she intended to live in it for half of each month. The girl cheerfully told Zeke that there were a lot of strange insects flying around him, and with a mischievous glint in her eyes, she promised to crush them, hoping that this would help them get closer, to which he only froze in shock. At that moment, the whole city perked up, accepting the new resident, and someone from the crowd loudly expressed alarm or sincere surprise. At the same time, Ciel, the fourth sister and Sage, arrived at Noah's house, her calm and focused appearance filling the room with a slight tension. Following her was a woman who introduced herself as the third sister, Fema, and almost immediately another, the fifth sister, Eklasia, each with her own expression of confidence. Ilya silently glanced around the room, thoughtfully noting Rise's absence and wondering why she hadn't appeared yet.